Okay, we're gonna get going here because it looks like the only one we're missing is Ron. And I don't, does anybody from VWR, did anybody have any contact with Ron, say he'd make it or not make it?
I spoke with Ron. He said he had a doctor's appointment today and he would try his best to make it, but no promises.
Okay, okay. You can come in later. So I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting, the Santa Cruz AMA Groundwater Users Advisory Council order. It is the 20th of August. And according to my watch, we're 1 minute early. So we're at 12:59. And I'm the chairman. I'm Mark Larkin. And start there and go with introductions of who's who here on the commission.
Ryan Nelson, ADWR Deputy AMA Director.
Okay.
Alejandro Bárcenas, Public Works Director for the City of Nogales and member of the UAC.
Gary Brasher, member of the GUAC, Vice Chair, and I live and develop properties in the Tubac area.
Joel Kramer, part of the committee as well, a council, and retired principal out of Nogales Unified School District, but currently still double dipping, working in Pima County.
And I should, I guess, say, yeah, besides my name, yeah. I don't know which one of us is the ag guy. Yeah, but Mark Larkin, chairman, and I'm an attorney in Nogales. So, okay, and then, yeah, we do have a quorum, and there's a lot of agency people here. Have we got anybody just from the public? Yeah, go ahead. Who are you?
Forrest Sherman. I live up on one of your tributaries we've been.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have. I mean, I figured you.
I've had a little head-to-head.
Yeah.
Did you want people online?
Yes. They say
people online to introduce.
Yeah, they can too. Hang on just a second, and we'll get to the voices from the sky. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm Luke Cole. I'll be presenting today. I'm with the Sonoran Institute based up in Tucson.
Oh, okay. Everybody else is DWR?
Dave Cristiano. I live within the boundaries of the AMA and just more about the AMA.
Okay, well, thank you definitely for showing up. We have any just public?
I'll introduce myself.
Yeah, please. Yeah, sorry.
Mason, I'm the GUAC coordinator for ADWR.
I'm Melissa Sykes. I'm the AMA grant coordinator.
Okay, and these are all your folks. Go ahead, but the rest of the agency people, go ahead. I don't mean to leave you out.
I'm Michaela Reed. I'm the Municipal Conservation Program Lead. And I'm Joy Revelavera. I'm the AMA Program Supervisor. I supervise GUAC, WMAP, and our conveyances program.
I'm Francesca Fingsler. I'm the AMA grant intern.
Okay, and then online, if private or agency, go ahead, jump in.
My name is Arturo Gabaldon. I'm president of Community Water Company of Green Valley. I'm public also, and I'm also on the Arizona Mexico Commission, and that should be. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else online?
Hello, members of the council and those of the public in attendance. This is Anthony Perano, Deputy Counsel with the Department of Water Resources. Happy to be here today.
Okay, thank you. And then I know Ron Fish is not. Anybody else online? Okay. Okay, let's go again to, I guess, agenda item 2. Nick, say how we're going to do this in case it's different.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, everyone. Before we get started, I'd like to go over some meeting logistics. Public in attendance, we ask that you please keep your phone silenced. We ask that those present online, please keep your audio muted in the meeting. If any members of the public would like to speak to the council, the call to the public will be the time to do so. If you are attending virtually, please indicate in the chat that you would like to speak and you will be unmuted. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted to ADWR's website and YouTube page once the recording is generated. Presenters, please ask for your next slide when presenting your agenda item. And for those attending virtually, if you experience any technical issues preventing you from seeing our slides that are being presented today, they will be available in a PDF version on ADWR's website once the meeting concludes. Finally, if you're having any other technical difficulties, please contact our help desk. Contact information can be found on the screen. Thank you. That is all.
Okay, thank you. I don't hear anything, so I guess nobody's got any problems with that. Okay, so I see 3 election. Remember this last time? Maybe we only meet once a year. Okay.
That's you.
You know, yeah, it's like the withdrawal fee recommendation coming up. Okay, election of GUAC chair and vice chair. Does anybody have a burning desire to be like the chairman? Either chairman or vice chair, or are we comfortable with status quo?
I think you're in, my opinion.
Okay, so let me do it this way. We'll just make a call to the council. We have a motion to just move on.
I'll make a motion to renominate Mark Larkin as our chairman for this council.
That's going to make it complicated. So good.
I'll second it, but if I should second that motion, I guess I'm not part of it. So
I'm second.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
Okay, so I guess you just want to do that, or you want to nominate vice chair also?
Well, so that's on the table, and then we'll.
Okay, so we'll go that. Okay, there's a motion there. Motion's been put forward and seconded to nominate Mark Larkin as the continue as chair of the council. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Alejandro, I was counting on. Okay, motion passes.
All right, I'll make a motion to nominate Gary Brasher as our vice chairman for the Santa Cruz AMA.
Second that.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded to nominate Gary Brasher as what P.D. Barnum say was born every minute.
Yeah, that's right.
As vice chair. So all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now we can move on, I guess. Maybe we've been bad because the next one up is a review of the open meeting law. So that's why we have counsel on the coming in virtually. Go ahead, counselor.
Thank you very much. Again, chairman and members of the council, as well as those from the public attending. My name is Anthony Peruano. I'm counsel with ADWR, and I'm going to go through a quick refresher of the open meeting law. I'm going to try to breeze through this because you guys have been quite established for a little while now, and I would assume that being on the council for a little while now that y'all are a little more familiar than those that may be greener to the position. With that being said, if there are any questions, just let me know, and I will address those as we go. Nick, next slide, please. So, as you may be aware, Arizona public policy requires official deliberations and proceedings to be conducted openly. We want to make sure that the public is very aware of what we're doing, and I will go through how these laws will apply to the GUAC. Next slide. Here are some resources if any of you would like to do any more background research on what any of these requirements may entail. You can find those in the statutes and other resources listed on this slide. Next. Now, who is subject to the open meeting law? Next, please. So any public body is going to be subject to open meeting law. Those would include, of course, governing bodies of departments and agencies such as ADWR, and commissions and other public entities established by the Arizona Constitution, as well as a handful of others. And we'll drill down a little more specifically on the next slide, which will discuss how the council is subject to the open meeting law. As an advisory committee of a public body, the council, the Groundwater User Advisory Council, will be subject to open meeting law. And the definition of advisory committee is listed here. It's any entity, however designated, that is or officially established in motion or in order, and that is appointed to make recommendations concerning a decision to be made or considered by the public body. In this case, the council will be making recommendations to ADWR and the director of ADWR, and that is how the council falls under open meeting law. Next slide here. Of course, then being subject to the open meeting law, you need to comply with all requirements of the open meeting law. Minutes and recordings of meetings must be taken and provided to the public, as well as providing agendas for meetings of the committee. And we will get into the definition of exactly what is a meeting in the slides to come. So when does it apply? We can go to the next slide, and we're going to go ahead and define meeting here. So it is a gathering in person or through technological devices. Now that could be a phone, email, or fax. A little bit later, we'll discuss exactly how an email can be a meeting. That's not very intuitive, but we'll go through that. So once we have a gathering that is a quorum of the council, as a 5-member council, that would be 3 members in attendance, where those members or that quorum of members discusses, proposes, or takes legal actions. This includes deliberations, and it includes one-way electronic communications where legal action is being discussed or proposed or even possibly taken. We'll go to the next slide, dive in a little deeper. So a quorum, as I mentioned, is a majority of the board. In this case, that will be 3 members. There are some public bodies that the quorum may differ, but in this case with the council, there is no specific statutes regarding that. So vacancies will count towards the number of members. So if, for instance, there are 3 vacancies on this council, we cannot have a quorum because the vacancies do count towards that number. We would not be able to hold a meeting if we only had 2 members appointed. Thankfully here, we have a quorum, so we're continuing on with this meeting. In the next slide, we'll discuss what happens if we don't have a quorum. As mentioned, you don't have a meeting, but you got to be aware of serial communications and wheel and spoke communications. And then again, as mentioned, vacancies do count. On our next slide, in the event that there's going to be a social event or occasion where a quorum is or may be present, say you all decide to go out to see a movie, maybe there's a community event where multiple members of the council, particularly 3 or more, decide to attend, it is a prudent practice to post a courtesy notice, or as typically ADWR will as ADWR refers to them on our website, typically a quorum notice. And that is just to let the public know that there is a gathering of the members, but there will be no business taken or discussed, no actions will be taken as far as regarding the council's duties as a council. And to the best ability of the council members, whenever there is that, quorum present outside of where business will be discussed, You should avoid talking to each other just to avoid any semblance of impropriety, or just make sure to have somebody there that can vouch. They were just discussing, the merits of the movie. They were not talking about anything having to do with groundwater policy. On our next slide, we will dive into exactly what is meant by discussing, proposing, or taking legal action. So in this instance, and generally, unless otherwise stated in statute or rule, the open meeting law is meant to be taken at its face. So normal use and meaning of words will apply. The above is no exception. Legal action means a collective decision, commitment, or promise. Proposing legal action is putting forward for consideration, discussion, or adoption. And this includes deliberations, whether it's particularly when positions or opinions on items that may come before the council can be considered board business. If this occurs, if any of these or a combination thereof occurs among a quorum of the board, that is a meeting. So the second that y'all are enjoying that movie and you start discussing or proposing groundwater policy considerations, that has then moved from just a happenstance quorum into a meeting, and then the requirements of a meeting, which we'll discuss later on, will come into play. On the next slide, proposing an agenda item. Proposing an agenda item via email is allowed if you do not propose legal action. So that means just communicate the topic only and not the legal action that you want the council to take, and not discussing any opinions or positions that you may have on the topic. So it's completely acceptable for one council member to email other council members to suggest that an item be placed on the agenda for an upcoming meeting, but do not go any further than that. And as that would be considered a proposing an agenda item. Next slide. So as mentioned, one-way emails are totally okay as long as it's a passive receipt of information from staff, and staff may send agendas and packets to the board members. And of course, those will also be made available to the public. Next slide discusses telephone conferencing. This is allowed if it's a public, allowed if the public body has approved this practice. The notice and agenda should indicate telephone participation. So just make sure that the public knows if for any reason you guys decide to have a meeting, but it will not be an in-person meeting, it will be a telephonic meeting. Just make sure to indicate that, and then of course provide the means to access the meeting for any members of the public that wish to join. We can move on to our next slide. So how to comply. We'll go on to the next slide. Make sure that when a meeting is being held, that it is at an accessible location. Make sure to avoid any venues that might prohibit or inhibit public attendance. So make sure you're not holding it out in the middle of the desert where you need a specific GPS coordinate to find it. You are not allowed to require sign-in sheets. However, as will be discussed later on, if any members of the public wish to speak, should there be an opportunity for the public to comment, be provided. Any of those members of the public that wish to speak do need to provide their name specifically for the records, and make sure it's held at a reasonable time. So not 2 a.m., 6 a.m. might not be the best time either. In the middle of the day, such as this meeting is occurring, is a perfectly acceptable time. A bit more on location on the next slide. If we, for any reason, there is issues with the venue, that was designated for a meeting to take place at. You can move the meeting to another location that is close to the original. So say the power goes out or there's an issue with Wi-Fi or telecommunications at the chosen location. You can post a large notice at the door of the original location indicating that the meeting has been moved to a different location. And then, of course, give the members of the public that may show up to the original location time to reach the new location. So if you're picking somewhere that's maybe a 10-minute drive, consider postponing it 15, 30 minutes just so that there's ample time for members of the public to find the new meeting location. Next slide. So public bodies of the state, and in this case, it would be the council, should conspicuously post a statement on their website where all public notices of the meetings will be posted, include a physical and electronic locations. In the case of the council, ADWR handles the posting of these notices on the website as well as at ADWR headquarters in downtown Phoenix. It is also absolutely reasonable and totally okay if the members of the GUAC or the council or their staff would like to post notice on the actual venue where that will be taking place. But ADWR, for the most part, will be handling the publishing and posting of the notices. On the next slide, we dive a little bit more into notices. Notices require at least 24 hours advance before the meeting. This is likely to change. I have not checked the most recent voting, but there is a proposal to change this 24-hour notice to a 48-hour notice. It has been proposed many times, and I think it's highly likely that this will be adopted in the near future. So it's generally a good idea to just get in the habit of a 48-hour advanced notice for all meetings. As well, the notice of meetings must be provided to all members of the public body. You can't just let your best friends know. All members of the council will need to be aware that a meeting is taking place. And then, of course, make sure that that notice is provided to the public as well by posting at the locations I just described. And a bit about the contents of the notice on the next slide. Make sure that we indicate exactly which public body will be meeting, in this case, the GUAC, the date, time, and place. So provide an address. If there's a room number that will help the public find the location, please include that. You also have to include in the notice the agenda or how to obtain the agenda. Of course, it's with the age of the internet, providing a link or something of the sort would be acceptable, as well as just making one long PDF that includes the notice and the pages of the agenda. If there's going to be an executive session, that needs to be indicated as well. There needs to be a notice that reasonable accommodations can be provided with advanced notice, and there will be typically a phone number or an email listed for any members of the public that require such accommodations to get in contact with ADWR to ensure those are put into place. On our next slide, so if a meeting needs to be recessed and then resumed, it is possible to recess and resume a meeting with less than 24 hours notice. Just make sure that the notice is publicly given and the 24-hour notice does not necessarily have to apply if we're recessing and resuming, but just make sure that the public is given ample time to find the meeting and the location. Next slide. So of course, we include the information to be discussed, considered, or decided in the agendas. On the next slide, a bit more about the agendas. Make sure to use plain language so that the public can understand. No acronyms, no legalese or agency slang. A little bit more on the agendas on the next slide. Be as specific as required as possible. So don't just say new business, old business, personnel, or announcements. Of course, if there is, and the next slide, sorry. If there is an item that is not on the agenda, it cannot be discussed. All discussions must be reasonably related to an adequately described agenda item. On the next slide, if there are any changes to the agenda, make sure to post and distribute same as original, and the 24-hour, or in the event that new legislation passes, 48-hour rule still applies. On the next slide, discusses minutes. Make sure that we're taking minutes at any time that there is a meeting, including in the executive sessions. The minutes need to be in writing or recorded. Of course, both is acceptable. The next slide discusses the contents of the minutes. So date, time, place, members present, general description of the matters, any action taken, the names of members who propose each motion, as well as any person making a statement. As I mentioned before, members of the public will need to provide their name, and this is specifically why. The next slide discusses how the public can access those minutes. They will be posted 3 working days after the meeting. Now that can be either the transcribed minutes or the recording. The next slide discusses public rights within the meetings. So the public must always be permitted to attend. They cannot be required to sign in only to attend. If they do, however, provide any comments, they must identify themselves. They cannot disrupt proceedings, but the council should make good effort to inform them of their disruptions and make sure that's stated on the record before anybody is removed. The public can record any or all of the meeting, but this cannot be done in a disruptive manner. And the council can limit the speaking time for any member of the public as well. The public is not, does not have the right to speak at these meetings. They have the right to attend. And so in the event that the council does not wish to provide the public with an opportunity to speak, they do not have to. On the next slide, for those optional calls to the public, be fair, avoid getting into matters not on the agenda. So if they start bringing up something that's out of left field, just remind them that only things on the agenda can be discussed. And the public body's response is limited in such an instance. Next slide, just a few things to be careful of. Make sure you're not whispering or passing notes. All of the communications that occur within a meeting should be reasonably available to the public. So things such as the passing of notes or covering the microphone when speaking is improper. The next slide discusses a little bit about executive sessions. They have special requirements. They still require an agenda and notice. The meetings and minutes will be kept confidential, but of course minutes do need to be kept. And then it is advisable, as always, to consult with your attorney before contemplating an executive session. The next slide lists some categories of confidential records, legal advice, litigation, and the purchase, sale, of real property. That's not exactly going to apply to the GAC. We can skip ahead 2 slides and discuss issues. So if there are any issues, just make sure to ratify, so for instance, if there is a quorum present at a non-meeting and something is discussed, just self-report, make sure that there is on the next meeting, It is identified what was discussed so that it is then placed on the record so that the public has access to those discussions, and then cooperate with the attorney generals, county attorneys, or ombudsman's office to remedy. And then, of course, consider training. That's exactly what we're doing here. Next slide, a bit about ratification. It ensures the effectiveness of decisions, but it does not preclude possible sanctions. The next slide, deeper dive into ratification. Got to make sure that the ratification takes place within 30 days. A clear indication in the agenda and notice of ratification, detailed written description of the violation, and notice a written description available 72 hours before the meeting. So the public has to be aware that there was a issue and that is going to be addressed at this next meeting. The next slide discusses what the county attorney may do. They may investigate as far down to seeking removal from office. The next slide also discusses what the Arizona Ombudsman's Office can initiate when they find out there has been an open meeting law violation. We can skip ahead 2 slides and discuss penalties. So there is a possible up to $500 fine for each violation, and they may have to pay attorney's fees as well. And I think, yes, so the individual, not the public body, pays the penalty. So if one of our members of the council violates and there are penalties sanctioned, ADWR will not be paying for those. ADWR will not be paying for the attorney's fees. Should those be levied, those will all go onto the member who violated open meeting law personally. Next slide, removal from office. If it is an egregious violation that is clearly done with intent, removal from office is an option. And brings us to our last slide of my extremely abridged open meeting law presentation. Do any of the members of the council have any questions?
Questions from anybody on the council?
No, sir.
Okay. Just one for members of the public. Has any members of the public had any issues finding out about, when these meetings are, or accessing any of that, that information, not getting notice? Anybody have any problems?
On the contrary, I've had good email contact from AWR, so I'm very happy with public notice of the meetings.
Yeah, they're pretty, they're pretty good. If, once people sign up, on the email distribution list, they never leave. They never get off. They're there forever. So, okay, good.
Mark, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Coming from the school board, how we follow open meeting law, and since I've been on here, I've seen some kind of differences, especially in the public. As far as public, is it public interaction then for these meetings to transpire? Because in our school board, we have call to the public, but after that, public is not allowed to intervene on topics or ask questions during topics.
And I'll tell you this, and Alejandro can remember, is when this thing started way back when he was the AMA director, things were pretty vocal at the, we were going through water rights settlement issues here at the SCAMA, and the public there were a lot of members of the public with a dog in the fight, and they were here, and traditionally these have been very, very sort of open to the public. We do have a call to the public, but quite often, as chairman, I'll include the public in the discussions as we go along. There was a time when the DWR and member of the council, I can't remember who it was, but they really thought that needed to be reined in, and they were essentially shouted down by the public there. And so far we haven't had a problem with it. It doesn't turn into a Donnybrook, but, and that's just kind of traditional in this AMA is that the public's, included in there and, we welcome a lot of public participation.
Again, I'm just bringing that up because our attorney tells us we are not to react to the public as a governing board. And the president or chairman can acknowledge during call to the public, and we're not, as members, we're not even allowed to make comments other than the chairman. Or even acknowledge what they're saying, other than we will take it up with further this, and this.
Yeah.
You're not, that we're not allowed to have discussions with any members of the public.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know here, that's, as far as the council itself goes, there's not that constraint. But obviously we can't go off on other items.
No, yeah, but as long as it's on tangent, I did that. Yeah. Again, that's why I asked, because I don't know, because I come from being on a board where it's semi-structured, I guess, although this is structured, but I'm just saying that the conversations don't go into the public and the public then gets input. Otherwise our meetings would go.
Oh, yeah, the school board
but see, that's where we were getting direction from our legal counsel. And that's, in fact, our legal ASBA law conference is coming up, and these topics always come up. I'm just asking that because when I came on, I wasn't.
Okay, and that's, and probably your legal counsel actually has a law license, not like me. This is Santa Cruz County. Nobody checks. You can appear in court. It doesn't matter.
Matter of fact, that was addressed in that presentation we just listened to, that it's not supposed to be any real discussion about public input, but to be put on for the next meeting.
But, and like I said, quite often that, the public has something to say on the agenda items. And that's one of the reasons that they show up, because of the agenda items. Anybody else? Anybody from the agency say how we're doing it all wrong? They never get away with this in Phoenix or something. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, thank you, Anthony, if you're still on. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to item 5. Melissa.
Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, council members and members of the public. I'll be going over the Water Management Assistance Program fund balance and the status of the DCP Groundwater Conservation Grants. Diving into the WMAP fund updates, the current balance is $439,800. $11,938 is committed, leaving a balance of $427,888. On average, we collect about $27,000 annually at the current rate. There are no projects outside of the Borderlands Restoration Network project being funded with WMAP funds. However, we have a new project requesting funding today. If we fully fund this project, the committed balance would increase by $415,671, and the remaining balance would be $12,217. As for the groundwater conservation grant projects, the City of Nogales' Water Conservation Education and Technology Project has completed their project. However, their final report was rejected and the department retained $11,647 in the fund. And they're going to be presenting today. Alejandro will be presenting. The Borderlands Restoration Network project, groundwater conservation or groundwater recharge on working lands by local youth to enhance ecosystem services, long title, is still in progress. But before I move on, are there any questions regarding the WMAP funds or the groundwater conservation grant projects?
Okay, seeing none, go ahead.
Perfect. The next agenda item will be Alejandro Barcenas presenting his completed project.
Moving on to the next.
Yeah, we'll go to the next
one. The City of Nogales received a grant for Water Conservation Education and Technology grant. The grant was intended to move the next slide, please. Install 2 kiosks the kiosks were like, better description, ATMs, kind of machines that people could go and use their water bill and check their own account, how they have been using the water, what was the trend that they had in the water consumption. And also, this was done during the pandemic issues that we had. So that prevented from people getting into the offices and interacting with many people. So they were installed outside of the city hall and outside of public work building. And those are the pictures that you're seeing there in the screen. Move to the next one, please. Unfortunately, Nogales is not the kind of place where everybody is technically savvy. There's a lot of resistance to use computers and to go and not interact with somebody, to ask the questions and ask the bills. So we didn't have a lot of luck in getting the people to really buy into the using the machines. We tried different ways. We advertised, we told by verbally, and people were not really enthusiastic about using this. One advantage of these machines, and really help us, is on people that were concerned on their bill for the water, they could go and check and see why their bill was so high, or why it was going up, or what was their consumption. So that helps. And also another side benefit that we got, city got from that, is that they could pay the bill anytime, day or night. So that would help the public to be more flexible in the payment of their water bill. You put next one, please. It's kind of hard to read, but we had mixed result on these things. We didn't get the number of people that we wanted to get to use these machines. However, we saw a combined reduction in the water consumption. I'm not implying that this was the installation of these kiosks resulted in the only factor in reducing the water consumption in the city, but really help us reduce the water consumption. And we saw in the last 3 years from 1% to almost 5% reduction in the water consumption. And like I said before, it's not only this project that created that reduction. We did a lot of work on reducing our water consumption. We're in the middle of a multi-million-dollar project to reduce our water leakage. We had to replace a lot of water lines that were really, we were losing a lot of water. And also making sure that the meters are read correctly, and addressing concerns from the public that they have high water use. We responded to those, and through the meter system that we have now, we're able to show the public almost day by day what the water consumption is. And as a matter of fact, sometimes it's more than every 15 minutes. We can read the meter. So sometimes the public is right. They say, well, you are wrong in your readings. Fix those mistakes, because no system is perfect. So we fix those mistakes, we give credit to the public, and we move forward. But many, many times we show the people, this day at this time, you got something happens in your home. You left a water hose open, or was a break in your water line or something, and we can tell them. And 90% of the times people say, oh yeah, I remember that. I was irrigating the plants and I forgot and came back the next day and I turned it off. So really, the point here on the water conservation side is that make people more conscious about their water use and how they can reduce their water consumption and also save money. That's the other thing. Could you put the next one, please? The other part of the project was to provide education on water conservation to the public. And my experience with the Department of Water Resources many years ago, when we had a program to go to the schools and have talks to the kids, especially third and fourth graders, was really, really good in sending a message home, because the kids, when you talk to them and explain to them why it's important to conserve water, they go home and they tell their mom or dad, shut off the water, don't do this, don't do that, and really help send the message to the home. So in this project, we reach out to the school district in Nogales, and we were able to, could you move to the next item, please? To present in 4 different locations to the kids. We reach, I don't remember the number exactly, I cannot read the number. I think we reached more than 700 people, every 100 students. And we make a presentation and explain to them why it's so important to conserve water, that the water that we use takes years and years to get back to the system, and also to prevent contamination, also is a conservation measure. Part of this project was to, I guess, reinvent the wheel and provide new educational tools. But we saw that we would not need to do that. There was plenty of information available from different vendors, from different agencies, EPA, DWR, ADQ. Many agencies had that educational information. So we opened that and we bought a lot of educational information for water conservation, and we distributed that to the schools. And, so far, I have heard from so many of the teachers say that make a big impact on kids, because they are more aware when they're taking a shower or they're doing washing their feet, things like that, that they are more conscious about that. So I think in that regards, I think we accomplished quite a bit on the educational side. However, we're planning to continue with that. We have a team now in the city that through this grant, they develop the experience and the know-how in how to go to the schools, get the contact with the schools, and send kids again. So we're planning to have this program as a continuous basis in Nogales at least, because that's where we have some jurisdiction, I guess. And we're hoping that that continues to be an impact into the water consumption in Nogales, and keep that going for as long as we can. The next slide, please. These are some examples of the educational things that are available. We distribute that quite a bit to schools. We gave to the teachers and the kids that attended all these presentations. We gave them decals, and that little sand clock that's there was really popular because they can see how long they take to take a shower or how long they are using the water. So that's really something. The rulers and the stickers that they put in their kind of, what they call, they put that in their hands and they can see that for a little while and then they wash out. Those are really things that the kids really get into and appreciate that. And without thinking, they're learning that water conservation is. The next slide, please. These are part of our program. Also, we posted all this information on our website. We send in our water bills, we send information to everybody that has an account with the city. We send the information to them, saying how important is water conservation and also the benefits of water conservation for them, because they can reduce their water bill. The city has a staggered billing system where the more consumption you have, the higher the prices that you pay for the water. So we tell them, you use the minimum, you're paying the lowest price. You're using a little bit more, you're going to be paying more and more. So that really has helped not only in the water use, but also in the economy of the household, that they can see the benefit of following these guidelines. The next one, please. We included some of the handouts that are available all over the place. ADQ, we combined some from ADQ, some from DWR, from EPA, and we put together this. And we're planning to have that in the webpage as a rotational thing, because there's many things that could be done to save the water. So we work with our IT department. They are going to be rotating the information as I think a quarterly basis. They are going to be moving that along. The next one, please. Those are, in general, the results of this. Again, I would like to have that done in a better way, but the combination of things that the pandemic and the reducing staff, and also at the same time that we started a multi-year, multi-million-dollar project to replace lines, kind of swamped myself and my staff to really put a lot of more time into this project. And I'm really grateful for the department that worked with us as far as we could develop the best that we could this grant. I appreciate Elisa for putting up with us and doing the best that could to help us. That's all I have. If you have any questions, I would like to answer.
The kiosks that didn't take off like we'd hoped, are they still in the same location?
They same location. They are same location. I've been talking to the management in the city that we may move them to a better location. We're thinking moving those maybe to the library, maybe to a commercial location that more public go by and see it. You go to City Hall once a month or like that.
Yeah.
Or Public Works, and if you need something, you don't go there. So we're working on that and the logistic of that, getting permission to install these things. The kiosk, you can pay by check, by credit card, and by cash. That's one of the key things that we're concerned about it, because ATMs have been ripped off of the ground and taken away. So we're thinking that maybe we just leave the checks and credit cards available and the rest of the information available, but not the cash. So we're going to put no cash here or something like that to prevent something happening. But glad that you questioned that, because we probably need to find a better location for this kiosk. And the only thing that we need is permission to install those in place because the kiosk have a cell phone to connect to the internet to our system. So once that connection is established, you can need power, and the power that they use is minimal, is nothing. So they are really self-contained. They are weather resistant. So we don't put it in the middle of the parking lot, but there's an outside place that there's a little bit of connection to that thing. I think would work.
Thank you. I got a question on there. Is you you said you hit about a 5% savings over those couple of years, which was what, 123 acre feet or 125 acre feet. What did you all have a target reduction that you were shooting for?
Our target is being compliant with the department that don't lose more than 10% of the water. However, we continue to replace water lines. We know a couple really bad lines that we're still fixing constantly, leak a lot. Unfortunately, we're to the max in our financial capacity to replace line. We got a grant and a loan from WIFA that we replaced the line. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, our projection was to spend about $20 million in water replacement. As soon as we started construction, we saw that only in 3 projects was almost $10 million. 3 projects. Initially, we were 30 projects in the program. The prices,
I was going to say, is that the material?
the materials and the time to get the supplies was really, really difficult. I'm going to give you an example because it's in my daily issue. A water pipe, an 8-inch water pipe that we used to buy for $500, that's $1,200. Sticker pipe, 20 feet long. That really is a lot of increases in the system. So right now we're working. I know that there's a lot of money available, but most of the money you have to match the money, or mostly match the money or get loans. So the city right now, with the water rates that we have, we're to the max. We cannot get any more loans because we cannot repay those loans right now. So we're working in the study to see if the water rates that we have are right. I know that the water rates have been in place since 2018, I believe. That's the last time that the city adjusted the water rates. And we commissioned a study to do a review of the water rates and see if there is something that could be done. I believe that we need to adjust the rates, but we need to be smart about that and not have a big increase in people, because people, at the same time that they are going to reduce their consumption, which is going to reduce our income. Also, the people in this area, most they're low income households, so there are not a lot of leeway to have a big increase in the water rates.
Yeah, and do you have to go through, does the city have to go through the corporation commission?
No.
Or no, because they're a municipality?
Yeah. We just need to convince the city council that that's the right thing. And especially in election years, that's not going to move.
How many, you talked about the your step up on there. How many tiers does the city have on step up?
I don't remember exactly, but at least we have at least 4 tiers. We have a program that's a low income program that they qualify based on the Department of Economic Security. If they qualify for them, they qualify for the city. Then the second tier is the water consumption. I think it's 50,000 gallons per month. That's the base consumption. That's the lowest rate.
And that's per hookup or per capita?
Per hookup, per meter. And that includes a fixed rate there. Then you go higher than 15,000 gallons. And I think the rate is $1.60 or $1.70. Don't quote me in this number because I don't remember those from memory, per 1,000 gallons. And then you go to the next year and that increases to $2 and something for 1,000 gallons. And then you use more than 35,000 gallons, goes to $3 per 1,000 gallons, something like that. So you use water like you use in your irrigation, you're going to feel the pain.
And talk about the pandemic taking a hit, because I know a lot of the water use in Nogales, particularly downtown, was from people coming across. So it kind of skewed the per capita numbers. But
we still have that, and I think the department, when I was there, I pushed that issue quite a bit. That Nogales population is 21,000, 23,000, depending on who you talk to. On a daily basis, we have 3,000 people crossing the border on a daily basis. Assuming that not all of that people stay in Nogales and they don't do anything in Nogales, that's still a big increase in the water demand. A lot of people come to car washes, they come to do laundry, because the water supply in Nogales, Sonora is really, they don't have water 24 hours a day. They have water, maybe they're lucky. They have 6 hours, 8 hours of water a day. So that's why the people come across. Some people come across to fill jugs of water. They take that across. And that's consumption that the department cannot take in consideration in our GPCD because the census is the number that they need to use. So that's why it's kind of skew a little bit. Our GPCD, I don't remember exactly what it is right now, but it's not the low as we should be, but that's the way it is because of the population
change in the day.
changing during the day. I don't know, are there any more questions?
That's all I had. Thank you.
Well, yes, I do.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, certainly the growth, well, you're gonna say growth, but you want to say decrease because the 5% was certainly you mentioned is important, and the figure that you had a target, whatever, that would have been better. But the fact that you involve the schools, and anytime there's a growth of 5% in schools, that is a good sign. So the fact that you went into the schools, hopefully that impacted this 5% decrease.
Oh, yeah, it was a
Yes, and with your programs, hopefully you can continue with your programs.
Yeah, I'm really,
Even though you might not be getting the funding, but continue the sustainability of these programs with Nogales Unified.
yeah. My intent, at least as far as I allow, I will continue that program. I have 2 staff people that are already trained and have the experience to go into the schools, talking to the kids, and they're eager to go back.
Oh, yes. Anytime you bring outsiders into classrooms, they love it.
Yeah, it's a good experience,
Right,
you know.
right.
The kids are tough.
So you can still get that projections of the decreasing.
Yes.
That's, and getting them involved. That's what I want to bring in. Just hopefully you continue that, stay in that program.
We intend to do that.
That's good. Thank you.
Okay. Any more for Alejandro? Okay. We are. Where do we? We're at 7.
7.
7. Okay. So on the W map. So Luke.
Mike and
It's just a room.
the room. Well, thanks everybody for the opportunity and for taking the time to hear the presentation. My name is Luke Cole, and I direct the Santa Cruz River program with Sonoran Institute. We're a conservation nonprofit, and we're based up in Tucson. We work throughout the entirety of the Colorado River Basin. Founded here, and I get to direct our local programs, so I get to make a change at home, which I really appreciate. What I want to talk to you all about is a proposal to reduce trash within the AMA. There are societal, water quality, quantity, biological effects that come from having trash in the river. And we have recently taken a leap in installing some infrastructure down in the city of Nogales to capture some of this trash, and we are wanting to scale that up as part of this opportunity here. Next slide, please. Just a bit about Sonoran Institute. Like I said, we're based here in Tucson. We were founded in 1990. Our mission is to connect people and communities with the natural resources that nourish and sustain them. And historically, that's the Santa Cruz River here. We have, in our 35 years or so of being around, have fostered and stewarded about $300 million of investment throughout the Colorado River Basin and have conserved to date about 500,000 acres. Next, please. As I said, I direct our Santa Cruz River program, where our vision is a flowing Santa Cruz River from Mexico to Marana, and that it's the center of community health and prosperity. And a lot of the work that has been done, and I would expect a lot of the drivers of ADWR and the AMA system, is to do something very, very similar to that. Next, please. So here's the problem. We have invested billions of dollars to improve quality of the water in the Santa Cruz River in the last 15 years or so. It's been in the form of upgrading the Nogales International Wastewater Treatment Plant and the 2 wastewater treatment plants up in Pima County. Pima County is also in the process of permitting another large wastewater treatment facility down in Green Valley. We're investing a lot of money, but the absolute ubiquity of trash in the Santa Cruz River not only prevents us from taking a victory lap for these investments and what have come from them, but it continues to damage the environment and the people. Next slide, please. So the proposal I have for you all today, it's a 3-step, 3-phased proposal. One would be to install a passive trash collection device within the Santa Cruz River or a major tributary to it, and any research that would follow. Number 2 would be to have community events that will connect people back to the Santa Cruz River. This would be most likely sort of a fiesta-style river beautification event that we would do annually. And the third would be community education through Sonoran Institute's Living River Report. And I'll touch more about this in a bit, but this is our bilingual publication that we put out every year. We put one out for the Nogales stretch of the river and another for the stretch of the river up in Pima County. We would use this report, which this year in Santa Cruz County will be sent to 3,000 people, 3,000 households for free, up from 1,500 just last year, to say, here's the work that's happening in Santa Cruz County along the Santa Cruz River. Next slide, please. So the litter traps that we have begun work with here in Southern Arizona, and that I have extensive experience with from when I was living and working back in Washington, D.C., are from this firm out of Georgia, like Georgia, US, called Stormwater Systems. These are passive trash collectors. They do not cause any backup of water behind them, so that there's no concern about any rise or erosion that comes from them. They allow water to flow through, and because they're buoyant, they will collect any buoyant trash. And I can speak more about the makeup of the trash that we know is in the river now. And like I said, there's no Army Corps of Engineers here, which would sort of be like the big thing. If this caused any disruption to the floodplain, any sort of structure within the river that would impede flows, we have Army Corps of Engineers involvement. We do not need that in the case of this trap. Next up, please. Oh, and sorry, if you don't mind going back. The trap that's on the screen now, it would be the one that we would be likely installing within the river. It's a larger capacity trap. The one on the next slide, please. This is a pilot one that we've installed. It's significantly smaller, but the funding that we had available was the one that we could get. And given how well it has performed to date, we feel really comfortable, safe in using this larger model and installing it within either Nogales Wash or Potrero or within the Santa Cruz River itself. This one was installed earlier this year down in Camp Little Park, right off of Western Avenue in Nogales. It has to date weathered 4 major monsoon storms and has collected 1,325 liters of trash. So about 1.3 cubic meters. If you want cubic feet, it's 47. But that's the equivalent of somewhere between, already collected just from this thing sitting in the river, between the equivalent of 2,800 and 3,800 soda bottle of these water bottles, just sitting there. And we have done this with support from the city of Nogales as well, who have been doing routine maintenance on this litter trap. Next slide, please. I've already been talking about efficacy. The demonstration is there. And here you can see the trap in action and the aftermath of, I think the one on the left is the first storm that we got. There are 2 tires in there, tons and tons and tons of plastic bottles and styrofoam. And the plastic bottles and styrofoam, food packaging, plastics, we see, at least in the study we've been doing up in Tucson, are about 70+% of the trash that we see in the river. So they float, they're catchable with these traps. And their breakdown products are horrible for water quality and for the environment as well. And yes, this thing can hack it with tires. It can hack it with huge, sharp monsoon storms. The bigger ones are designed to handle even more. Next, please. So the tasks as outlined in the proposal would be the installation, or first identifying where the litter trap would go. The one that we installed earlier this year, we did that with support from Santa Cruz County Flood Control District. We would participate and work with them again to identify the location, paying attention to hydrology, land ownership, and maintenance access. Permitting, again, get a floodplain use permit, and where necessary, coordinate with the landowners. And I can say, already been in talks with one landowner who owns a lot of land along the Santa Cruz River, and they're very interested in installing one of these litter traps on their stretch of the Santa Cruz River. Task 2 would be to acquire the trap. We have experience in this now just recently. So this would be working with stormwater systems. They customize each of the litter traps depending on the width, the depth, the hydrology of the system in which they'll be installed. These are not an out-of-the-box thing. They are customized for use where they're sited. What that would look like would be preparing the sites, pouring concrete footers, installing wildlife cameras, which have taken up a lot of my time on my phone. I'm just like constantly refreshing. It's great to see. It's amazing. Javelina and lots of trash. Seeing the trash capture is impressive. And then we assemble the trash right in place. If you go to the next slide, and I think maybe hit, if that doesn't go, it's fine. Is there a play? Nah. It was a stop motion of us installing the litter trap. When we installed the smaller one, and the scale would be the same for this one that I'm proposing here, clear the site, lay the concrete day 1, build the trap in site day 2. It's a 48-hour process and probably 5 to 7 hours each day. Ongoing, right? This is not just build it and leave it be. It's the maintenance of the litter trap. This would need to be regularly emptied and monitored, which is where the litter camera, the trail cameras come in. And the Sonora Institute's trash study that we've been doing for the last 4 years in the urban core of the Santa Cruz River up in Tucson, we would have a staff on site who would be doing that and working with likely Shining Arizona, perhaps Friends of the Santa Cruz River, schools to do this trash study, which is quite simple. And I'll give you a show of that in a moment. Overall, in this study that we've been doing since 2021, we have 57 different categories of trash that allow us to really categorize and make decisions on whether or not to install a trash trap like this, because if all the trash wasn't buoyant, this water trap wouldn't work. We know that it does. So the study would not only give us the abundance, but each type of trash, each of those 57 categories have a weight associated with it. So then we can start talking about what weight of trash we're pulling out of the river. We're not going to weigh every piece of trash, but the research has been done to allow us to draw and infer the outcomes there. And then because we know what it's made out of, we can start talking about whether these things are recyclable, whether these things are buoyant or not, and then start working our way back to do some source tracking if we are able to do the study of trash up and down the river corridor as down in Santa Cruz County, as we've done up in Pima County. Next slide, please. And this has really gotten the attention of the media, and it's gotten the attention of the people in this community. There's a top left, this was during sort of the heat of COVID. We were out with the Friends of the Santa Cruz River, showing them the methodology for doing the trash study. The bottom two pictures, I've had interns working with us at the Sonora Institute for the last 3 years. These are students from the University of Arizona who have been doing the scientific study. We could publish this thing and probably should. Scientific study of the trash. So each survey that we do has a GPS point associated with it, and we collect our data in triplicate, the whole thing. We want to bring that very intensive, very deliberate research to Santa Cruz County through this proposal as well. And then, as I noted, we would do some trash cleanup events. And throughout 2023 and into 2024, we have really gotten our events game up. And typically when we do river cleanups, we're getting anywhere between 100 and 300 people turning out to our trash cleanup. People care about this. This is one of the most, in this sort of corridor, one of the most silver linings that came out of COVID is that people wanted to go out and do something to improve their community. And people started caring about trash, and it's continuing. People got a taste for it. And as we do these events and kind of make them like a fiesta, get more and more people to turn out, give them a reason to take some time out of their Saturday morning where they could or otherwise be sleeping, shopping, doing whatever they wanted to do. Next, please. So all I have on here, this is what the data sheet looks like. It's a pencil and paper survey. This is something that probably 7th graders and up could do. The side on the left, it's like, what's the GPS location, your name, the date, why are you doing this, any identifying features of the site. The middle panel and the panel on the right are the 57 different categories of trash. First page is all food related things. Styrofoam, plastic bags, water bottles, soda bottles, beer cans. On the right, we have toiletries, medicinal, recreational, paper litter, clothing, and then large. You can see a lot of automotive in the river. So tracking those, lugging them out, but maybe letting the folks who can do something about it know, so they can say, hey, here's a GPS point for where there's 5 tires or a chassis or something like that. It's a really straightforward study process, one that we have adopted from work that was being done back in DC. Next slide, please. So I talked a little bit already about the cleanup events, working with both Santa Cruz and Pima County-based organizations to help do this. I've already talked about the size of the events. Oh, and every time that we do a river cleanup, we weigh each of the trash bags, which will give us a sense not only of how much trash we've pulled out of the river, but because we've already done the study and we know the makeup of the trash, we can make inferences within there as well. We can say probably most of what we're getting in here is floatable plastics, things like that. And then I've noted already our Living River publication, which this year will be doubling its reach, and we hope to continue to expand it. And it's not a done deal. Once we put out our Living River magazine, we go to schools, we go to community groups, and we do lectures, engagements around, hey, here's what's in this thing bilingually, and to teach people about the Santa Cruz River that we have been separated from for dozens of years to a century because it's been polluted and ignored and dried up, particularly when you're looking to the north. So now that the river's clean and the river will become increasingly beautiful due to the reduction of trash that's in there, let's make sure that people are aware of it and get reconnected with this resource. Next slide, please. And I saw that it would be important to really speak to what some of the priorities are as stated by ADWR and within the AMA system. So by installing this trash collection device and researching the trash that's in there and reconnecting people with this river, either through education or physical experiences, we are protecting water quality, we're raising public awareness and providing education and offering monitoring and reporting back to ADWR. All of this information would come back to the AMA, would come back to ADWR. These data sets would be shareable and useful. I'll note that we're already coordinating with ADEQ on this study as well. So this really would become a region-wide, river-specific, but state-informed and state-benefiting project. There's nothing else like this happening in the state. Slide, please. This is sort of the work plan as identified. So I sort of hit on 8 of the tasks that would be happening between Sonora Institute's fiscal year started in July. So that's Q1 would be Q1 of FY25 right now. We're proposing a 3-year plan wherein the trash trap would be installed either in the winter or spring around our upcoming new year. And the installation would follow monthly. Sorry, the monitoring post-installation would occur monthly in coordination with Santa Cruz County. And we would do both a kickoff event and then annual cleanup events, share the information in our Living River magazine, and then at the conclusion of it, also identify additional sites along the river where these litter traps could be installed. So leaving the county not just with data, but with opportunity. And the litter trap itself, the folks at Stormwater Systems are very generous when communities are reaching out to them instead of businesses. So the large scale trap that would be working with would be about $150,000. That includes installation costs, that includes travel for staff from Georgia to come out here. And everything that would follow that would be Sonora Institute staff that would be coordinating and conducting the monitoring research and the community events, producing the publication, the Living River publication, and then a little bit in there for supplies, cameras, ongoing maintenance needs that would be needed for the trap, taking it to about $416 or so $1,000. And I believe that's my last slide. It is. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Okay, do we have any questions?
I did mean to ask, I'm sorry, but Santa Cruz County, I'm not sure if anybody's tuned in the meantime, but Jesus Valdez, the county manager, has agreed to be our public entity partner on this and to administer the engagement between ADWR and Sonora Institute. Just getting meetings lined up and lawyers to review. We don't have the contract yet in place, but I wanted you all to know that the arrangement has been made should this project be funded. Sorry. Okay. My fault.
Oh, it's all right. Yeah, I just have plenty of questions. I'll say this, that from the years I've been on the school board, I'll give a shout out to our good friend, Mr. Victor Fontes. If you remember him, I've learned some things from him back in the days when he served on the board. So don't take this as personal, just questions. I always play the devil's advocate because it is money that belongs to the residents of Santa Cruz County. So with that said, I'm going to ask these questions. Okay? So personnel, we've got a total of 182,553 coming out of this 415. Is that person resident of this county or resident elsewhere?
Yet to be hired, but the intention is for that person to be hired within Santa Cruz County. Absolutely. So what's budgeted within there is full salary for the first year and then half salary for the subsequent 2 years to be.
Who would pick up those other 2 years after that?
Other funding sources within.
Say what organizations?
Sonora Institute would. So yes, the remaining 0.5 FTE would be from other funding sources that Sonora Institute has. But to sort of match the budget and to keep. So and absolutely, my goal, my intention is that this would be a Santa Cruz County hire.
Right, because anytime we use money, we always try to put it back into local, because it's not always about Pima, Pinal, and Maricopa, because we tend to always spend money. It comes from organizations from up there that come down here. take our money. We always, as a school district, we always try to infer on that. Indirect cost, 20%, which is 69. What is the indirect costs?
Okay, so those are our general operating costs that are not attributable to any one program or department. So this is things like rent, utilities, IT, insurance, or back office support, administrative support within Sonora Institute.
So it goes back to Sonora Institute. Okay. All right, this litter trap, and I've kind of did my research. I asked a few people because I work in Pima County, so I have some people there I can certainly ask. This litter trap, is it going to be able to withstand, especially the large monsoons we hope we get, or even the October ones that we tend to get sometimes, or the hurricanes that once in a while come up and drop 4 inches? Is this litter trap even going to make it through that?
It will. So the folks with stormwater systems have installed these all over the world. They've installed them in, best corollary to this area is in Australia. Dry riverbeds, huge storms. They have never had a litter trap break loose. The only time that they have ever broken loose have been from people going in there and cutting the line, and it's never even drifted away. These things are rock solid. The one that we recently installed to make sure that this didn't happen, we did everything with stainless steel cabling. So yes, it will withstand. They will not install one of these litter traps if the hydrology exceeds the limitations of the trap itself. So we would be working to identify the most appropriate site. It's not just going to go anywhere.
Okay, so the 150,000 will cover this trap. And the sustainability of this trap, is it weather resistant? Obviously it is, because you're saying it's all across. After the 3 years, who's then monitoring this trap?
The hope and expectation would be this would not be the first one. We're already committed with Santa Cruz County through the duration of this trap. We will and should have
Say Santa Cruz County, Santa Cruz County, are they giving money to this?
But they need to be, tell me.
They will be contracting with us through the intergovernmental agreement with Sonora Institute. So they'll be the signatory on the contract with ADWR.
They're not contributing any funding.
They would be facilitating the funding.
And receiving a subset for the administrative costs to the county to administer this grant. So there would be money to the county.
And then after 3 years, what is the county saying? Sustainability.
Like
after 20 fiscal 27.
We're due to have that conversation. I have not asked of what the plan would be beyond, as we have not really had the plan.
Because we're kind of out of the picture then, because we'll be depleted of funds.
Okay, so what I'm hearing then is that we should extend or at least build in a mechanism within our contract within Santa Cruz County to identify what the operations and maintenance plan will be beyond the contract term.
Exactly. With all federal grants, as you probably know, the question is sustainability after the grant is funded, lack of funding for so many years.
Yeah, and just on that, what's the longest period any one of these traps have been in place? They're still functioning.
The first one was installed in 2009, and it's still operating. That's in Washington D.C. Like a pretty wicked storms there as well. So
I have a question.
I've got just 2 more.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Okay. I just want to keep going, so otherwise I'm going to.
Yeah, please, because those are all good.
All right. The other one is the trash cleanups events in Rio Rico. This is where, or Nogales, maybe. But you said 3 and 4. Now you're talking Tucson, Pima County. Because trash events, cleanups around in Rio Rico, and for those events that have participated in them, which I have, a few, we're not getting 300-400 people. And it's promoted by the local organization. That's one. And 2 is, this is another question I was going to follow up. And we just chatted, and we just saw in the international, water running right now down the Santa Cruz River. I don't think I would walk in there unless I had high boots, a mask, and goggles to protect myself if I had any skin cuts or anything to that effect. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? So we wouldn't be doing any cleanups while there was, or doing the cleanups while there's water running under the current conditions. correct?
Correct. And we're probably not going to be doing any cleanups in the river either. I mean, all the cleanups that I've participated in down here in Santa Cruz County are either along the banks or in the drier stretches of the floodplain. I don't think that it's wise to have cleanup events where people are wading around in the river. We've never done that.
Okay, and again, that's why I asked
Yeah.
the question. So it'd be in the dry beds where the trash has collected over, is that what you're saying?
So I am not expecting that the community would be the ones emptying this litter trap. I think the litter trap is a centerpiece, and that the cleanup events like the ones that happened earlier this year up in Tumacacori, a huge turnout, and pushing 100 if not over, that would be the type of cleanup that Sonora Institute would be leading or sponsoring through this. Would be a large scale meetup where there's a lot of space that's coordinated, like with Santa Cruz Shining Arizona, Friends of the Santa Cruz River, who have done these cleanups before. The litter trap is there regardless. The cleanups are just another opportunity to get people back into the river and making a difference in their community.
So then who's coming to clean out the litter traps?
Santa Cruz County. So the goal.
They've committed then the funding to this then.
Yes. So the goal on this would be for this larger trap, the siting of this is where it's particularly important because these traps can be, the payload of the trash can be either winched out or can have singular point of entry where folks can go in. So making sure that that'll be a limitation when we do the assessment of where to put this thing. Is it by a right of way? Is it within county accessible? Or is there county maintenance staff access to this to ensure? So ideally, it would be like a winch load and unload if it were mounted to or near the road passage along the river.
So then, yeah, okay. So that would be another gray area that's not quite, we don't know yet.
Right. I think we need to get started on this to do the identification of where the right location would be. I'll say for the litter trap that we've already installed, Santa Cruz County has done a pretty significant scour already along the river for good locations. But because of the limitations of the pilot one that we've done so far, it narrowed our focus. We're not starting from scratch.
And that's the one along Western Avenue.
That's the one along Western Avenue, exactly.
All right, I give up my time on the floor.
That's a great question. Thank you.
Well, good. Yeah, those are all practical questions.
Go ahead. I'm having trouble visualizing, Luke, so this device, does it span bank to bank? I mean, is it?
It does. So could you click back?
Yeah, if you look at the picture, because I think I understand what you mean by a floating trap, and it's flotation that keeps it from blocking. It keeps the Army Corps of Engineers.
Yeah. So there you go. That's the best one.
Yeah.
Right. So actually, you know what? Click back one slide towards the beginning, if you don't mind. Because this would likely be within a flowing stretch of the Santa Cruz River. So I would expect that the trap on the left or on the right, but you get more image of it on the left. Imagine it would not go in Nogales Wash, but imagine sort of this trapezoidal channel like Nogales Wash. So the way that it's fixed is going now upstream or to the left, you set significant concrete footers. We augured about as deep as this podium, maybe a little bit deeper. We dropped chain into it that was crisscross wired in with rebar. Chain came out the top and the trap was mounted to that with stainless steel wire and stainless steel clamping, 1/8 inch, and we would probably use closer to 3/8 or 1/2 inch stainless steel. So you have this thing mounted into the ground. It has its booms then run downstream to the trash collector. So it's just sitting there floating. Fish, heavy things, water flow right underneath it, but it has just enough volume within it that as the trash sort of comes in, it funnels towards the middle, towards that collector, and that collector becomes a single point at which the trash can be removed.
So if in a significant flood event, that accumulation that would take place fairly quickly wouldn't in any way force water out around it?
It would not. And they have engineered it they've engineered these so they know the flow velocity at which it might start to lose trash. And that's really what they set their minimum at. Where is it going to lose trash? These things have never caused any flood backup at any of the installs that they've done, because they are mounted high enough up on the floodplain that it will be able to sort of come up and come to parallel if the flood.
Whatever the crest.
And that's where Santa Cruz County's hydrological assessment gives us the most ideal locations to install this.
Gentlemen, I'd hate to interrupt, but we're getting into a little bit of a time crunch, and I want to make sure we have enough time for the next agenda item as well as public comment. If there's still questions remaining, we can get back to the call to the council section. We could get back to some of those, but I want to make sure we have enough time for those other agenda items. I think our next topic will be germane.
Yeah, well, sure, I mean, if we run out of time today, will we come back to this?
I think this is something I think that, and maybe that's what we should do is, table this and, we can all take a look at this. Because this is, anytime you look at all the plastic bags in the cottonwood trees, this is something, looks like a worthwhile project. A lot of these meetings, we wonder what to do with our vast wealth that we have, stuck in there. And I do have some more questions on here, unlike O&M.
I was gonna say, to table it too,
Yeah.
and plus of what this gray area, especially with the county, and what's transpiring in our county right now.
Yeah, speaking of loss of treasure.
Well, yeah, exactly. And we know we've lost 2 supervisors already.
Yeah.
So I think the politics.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's do
No, and that's what I was gonna lead into is, I was gonna make a motion that based on that is to table this item.
Yeah, let's, so go ahead. So you've got
I
a
make a
motion.
motion to table this item until our next meeting, so we get further understanding and ask the more questions about.
I would second.
You want to talk about this all day, sure.
The motion has been made and seconded to table this and to table discussion on this with the idea that we come back to this at our very next meeting.
Exactly.
Okay, and
I just want to have a comment on, I'm really concerned. Nogales was is not Western Avenue.
no,
And now to extrapolate what you learned there, the Nogales was, I'm really concerned.
This will not go in Nogales Wash. No way.
Well, that's where the trash is.
Correct.
That's my point, because I have a sewer line that crosses the wash, and that's a trap for the trash. And I have seen miles cable tangled around that pipe. Half of the Volkswagen car stuck in there. So that's a concern, really. You're gonna put it where just the bottles flow, then it's okay, but I think this is gonna be a meaningful project. You need to think about where the concentration of the trash is. And the concentration is from the urban area in Nogales, Sonora, and that's in Nogales Wash. So that's my comment.
And I'll say we're building this project up. I think that we need, this project would be beyond a demonstration. The budget, the engineering to address this within Nogales Wash, it's beyond what this room, I think, is capable of doing, right? That's going to take a larger state or federal engagement, binational engagement probably, to do that. And studying the trash, remember, this is not just the trash trap. This is a river system-wide trash study that will help us really identify and put numbers behind what we know is the case, right? But if we can hit on those hotspots, then we can design. I know we tabled it, but to design going into the future. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
okay, so we'll take a vote real quick for the record. It's been moved and seconded. Like I said, so all those in favor of what I said, say aye.
Aye.
So motion carries. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Okay, so on number 8, groundwater withdrawal fee recommendations. Okay, my favorite, because I recommend. So, okay, and that is, okay, right now, we're at, and I see, is somebody from the agency making a spiel on this, or shall I do it?
What about you?
Okay, okay. This comes up, and I believe that we have to do this every year on the withdrawal fee rates. The withdrawal fee rates currently, your base rate is $3 an acre foot, and then with another $2.50 on there for the water quality. $2.50 or $2.12. And you know what? And I just did these for some people too a little while ago. Anyway, that comes up. That cost is per acre foot. Generally, your IGFRs, your irrigations pay the base rate of $3. Type 2 rights, and I guess the municipal rights pay, $5.12.
I think we paid $3.
Three straight, the three straight, okay. Because I know some commercial and industrial and who pull out of type 2 rights, they'll pay the $5.12.
Yeah, and I think
$5.12, I think it's a $2.12.
Withdrawal fee set is $3.
It's $3, yeah.
And it's maxed out in the WMAP category and the admin.
I was gonna say that we have been at the max for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And it's $3.
Yeah, okay, because I'm, and I'm looking on the additional that we do. Anyway, my basic thing is, looking back at ag, water is maybe your second biggest cost behind labor. And it is significant to add any more to that. $3 per acre foot fee for the large users is a big chunk of money. And in what is often a low margin kind of business. So, I'm always give my spiel about keeping it where it is right now. Anybody else?
I agree. I think
No, I think so.
$3 has worked for Santa Cruz AMA for a long time. I don't see any different.
And we've collected a fair amount of money with that too.
Yeah, we have been saving it, so.
Yeah.
It's all still there, right?
All right. Oh, okay.
Just thought I'd ask.
It's located at the state.
Yeah, that's, wow. Yeah, Santa Cruz County's got. So, if we do a motion on the withdrawal fees.
I move to keep the rates at $3.
I'll second.
A move's been made and motion's been made and seconded, maintain the withdrawal fee at $3 per acre foot. Any discussion on that?
Just a quick question. It's been, Forrest Sherman, it's been at $3 for years.
Since the groundwater code,
I think 1 year, I think was $2.50. I think was just 1 year.
So it has not changed with inflation, cost of living, or anything else. So really what's happening is the amount that the users are paying in inflated dollars has been dropping for the past number of years.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is, not in terms of actual figures, but the dollar, the value of the dollar,
Value of the dollar, yeah.
and considerably over the years. So I just wonder if I can understand the push for maintaining it for marginal businesses and such, but is it reasonable for your income to be dropped, in fact, because the numbers haven't changed in relationship to inflation?
I think there is some statute or something that regulates how much we can go
Yes,
higher.
I have those on that slide as well. Our maximum, for the WMAP is $2. And then we have a minimum set for the admin and enforcement fee, which is 50 cents with a maximum of $1. So
And that's the
So we're just-
legislature that sets that
Yeah,
up.
and that's what makes up, yeah, that's. what
statute,
makes
that's
up-
statutory.
yeah, Statutory.
Well, it's not even a decision, it's limited by statute.
We can go lower.
We can go lower. We haven't done that.
It's recommend, actually, I think, thought of that one year, was to try to go lower. Next year. Well, no, I remember a long time ago, they can. And that was, I think we had a bit of a dry year and all of us farmers had to, shell out a little more. So we figured of going lower. But generally, okay, so back to the motion. Motion has been made and seconded to keep the withdrawal fees, the basic withdrawal fees at, $3 per acre foot. And so all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We're safe for another year. Okay. Okay, Ryan, AMA Director report.
Perfect. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, council members, and members of the public. I'll be delivering the director's report today on behalf of Natalie Mast, our AMA Director, who regrets she cannot be here today and sends her best regards to you all. So for those who don't know me, I'm Ryan Melson. I'm the Deputy AMA Director here at the agency. A few updates we have. One is around staffing. So in terms of personnel, I'm pleased to announce that Melissa Sykes actually is being promoted from her WMAP coordinator position to our conservation program supervisor. So super happy to have her in that role. Melissa's been with the agency for over 5 years, delivered outstanding work consistently. So really happy to have her step forward in that new role. Alternative pathway to designation. So ADWR has initiated a formal rulemaking process to modify the assured water supply rules to create an alternative pathway to designation in the Phoenix and Pinal AMAs. There's a public stakeholder process as a part of that rulemaking, including a public hearing and comment period and consideration of the rulemaking by the Governor's Regulatory Review Council, the GRRC. Information regarding this rulemaking and timeline are all available on ADWR's website. In addition to that, Douglas AMA. So there's an application deadline for grandfather rights, which is September 3rd for the Douglas AMA. That's a hard deadline written into statute, so ADWR cannot make any exceptions to that deadline. Applications and additional information are available on the Douglas AMA webpage of the ADWR's website. So ADWR will continue to be working this fall on the adoption of the first management plan in the Douglas AMA. The statutory structure for subsequent AMAs is different than that for initial AMAs. So we're grateful to the stakeholders and staff who have worked to create something that reflects that unique and unprecedented nature of that AMA in particular. Those are the main updates I have from the agency. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the council.
Any questions? Anybody moving to Cochise County? And
Question. In the meantime, that we're going through this process of revising the water supply rules, what happened with the application? I'm asking that question because we have an application. We have been going through the process for the last 3 years or 4 years. And my question is, are you going to hold that until the whole process gets done, or are you going to continue moving with those applications, or what's going to happen?
I'm not positive on that, but I could get you information to report in the next GUAC meeting if that works.
Yeah, you would, please.
Absolutely.
yeah, because I don't know.
Yeah.
That's been kind of in the works for quite a while.
At least 3 or I think 3 years or 4. I'm not really sure, but we have been waiting and see what when the decision is gonna be made, we knew that there were new rules were coming in. We say, well, why don't you apply that way or the traditional way? And so we don't know what we're gonna do. And I have a hydrologist and an attorney working with us that's quite a bit of money to keep them on board to react to
Those hydrologists there. The, okay, but my understanding is that any of the assured water supply issues that we're going to see changes are only for Phoenix and Pinal. Okay, so everything that the whole sort of protocol and structure, at least is probably going to stay the same here in the other end. Okay. Okay. Anybody in the council got anything that they want to say? We do have one agenda item for sure coming up on the next one.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Oh, yeah, I'm just full of conversation there. South 32, Mr. Pat Reisner, spoke with him, would like to present at our next meeting.
Good. And I'm always dropping by their office when I'm in Patagonia. I can never find anybody in at the time. But I'd like very much to hear about South 32 and their projects, particularly since they are upstream on kind of a major tributary, and they're up not in the AMA, but they're upstream from the AMA. And so, yeah.
Well, I told him I'd try to reach out so you guys can make the connections with him, his office, so that they could present at our next meeting.
Okay, yeah, I'd like very much to.
It was appropriate, that it would be good for us.
Yeah, definitely would. So, so if that can go on.
I'll reach out to you for his information.
Yeah. And they've got a whole public relations massive setup out there.
Yeah. But I think he said he personally would.
That would even be
great.
better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So hopefully. And the other one is, again, I couldn't answer it, but I'd certainly like the school board, and just for Rio Rico here, what was appearing in the international regarding the water and how polluted it was. Is there any way that we can get some sort of presentations out to our school, like you're doing with the schools, but out to our school district, of just what's going on? Because there's not a lot of answers in the international.
Yeah, my opinion, I think there are ADQ staff that they have been monitoring this situation, and my phone is full of messages on a daily basis. Say, oh, we have a break here. There's going to be raw sewage going in the wash, and we're taking care of the break as soon as possible. That's it.
Right.
And that goes to maybe hundreds of people, including ADQ and everybody, IBWC and everybody, but we don't see any results. I'm frustrated with that because right in the middle of the city, we have the sewer running in the wash. Yeah. So, and sometimes we have to work in there.
Exactly. And that's the work. Where can we get that information distributed out to our people?
My suggestion is to reach out to somebody. I can provide you some names that they have been involved. Maybe they can direct you who should be the right person to make a presentation.
Because I think it's fair to not only look at, certainly, because you know where I'm coming from, but certainly once it hits out here.
Yeah, and that should be something, and yeah, DE2 would probably be the one, because they're going to have the connections with IBWC. They still have their station right at the border. IBWC, their chlorination station.
Well, they're not at the border. They're chlorinated in Mexico, but that has, my opinion is it's not working because they put some bags of chlorine. That's it.
No, yeah, they throw like HTH in there and then call it good, but maybe not.
So those are my two items.
Okay, yeah.
Bring up.
And Yeah, that would be good. And something like that, yeah, about, and I don't know if we want to put that on the agenda, is that we want to know about what's the, I guess, the notice of something like that when you have these water quality issues, acute water quality issues rather than sort of just chronic ones.
And some site where we can actually look at something that we can actually have hands on. I mean, we got the farm right there.
Yeah.
We got kids right there.
Yeah.
Not only that, but I mean, you got Lincoln, you got all the other.
Yeah.
But good coffee water needs body.
Maybe you can,
Okay,
I would
see, Gary, thank you.
okay, thank you. Really interested in the monitor program that you have in the AMA. I would really like to know if they are still checking all the wells, checking the flows, and all those things. I think we made a recommendation last time that dedicate some of these monies to fund the monitor program from the department for the Santa Cruz AMA. I think it's really important to see what the condition is on the different aquifers that we have and see. So far, I think this, the portion that I can see are doing a little bit better, but I don't know. The rains have been so spotty that we don't know that everybody else in the AMA is doing the same way that we're doing. So I would like to know what the program is for the monitoring groundwater in Santa Cruz.
Yeah, if we could just, get that, I think just the
Right.
protocols of what the monitoring, we used to know it really well way back when, and it ran quarterly and stuff like that. But if we could get to know that, like, the number of, like in the case of wells, the number of wells that are being monitored, for like groundwater levels and also,
The frequency though.
and the frequency of that monitoring. That would be good. We realize it's, it can't be like it was back in the golden days of the Santa Cruz AMA when we kind of knew what was going on. But yeah, if we could get some kind of presentation on what's the actual sort of protocols for monitoring. And
I don't know, you still have a basic data section in the department? No? You
We have
don't?
a wells section and they have I think they record their monitoring wells with the hydrology team. So that could be something that we could definitely discuss.
'Cause you used to have a program, a sweep that you did a sweep for the whole state and then different monitor programs for different AMAs. I don't know what's going on now. You're not in touch with that for a long time.
because it made a really good database, for things, particularly here where we're so like precipitation driven on our system. Okay, from the public, real quick. Yes, sir.
Very quick. Adam, I'm interested in that very question about ground level water, but specifically to Josephine Canyon watershed, which there are no AMA wells up in the watershed. The private research I've done on wells based upon county data and actually going out and sounding wells with an acoustic monitor myself and talking with people about history. The water table on the upper level where there are private wells only for water has dropped over the past 30 years, probably around 100 feet, from around 300 foot average level to water to 450 foot from well drillers. So I have some tentative data, which I'm not going to go into in any detail because of time, but my question is, would the committee be interested in my doing a presentation about this issue? One, for example, years ago, 15 years ago, the Josephine Canyon up by the waterfalls that people knew about ran about 11 months out of the year. Josephine Canyon, where my house is still dry, and I've had 5 1/3 inches of rain in 2 months. So the whole groundwater basin in that area is just absorbing it water like a sponge, and it's causing a drop in well levels that I have been able to document. Would you be interested in my continuing with that kind of research, especially in light of the additional housing units for that area? I don't know the exact number, but I've heard something like 300 housing units are in the process of being built or have been built over the past 3 or 4 years, which amounts to about just that additional drawdown from the company that provides water, about 100 acre-feet per year, just the additional 300 housing units.
And that's houses that are in a service area.
Yes. Yes. If you drive up Camino Josefina and you look, it used to be just countryside, and now it's all those little lots. About half of them have new houses on them that have been there in the past 4 years. And it's been a significant increase in water usage. And before that is when I did my initial research of showing a drop in about 100 feet of groundwater in the upper part of the Josephine Canyon and Bond Canyon area.
You know what, I would, really like to see that, because I mean, that's been, excuse it, almost kind of a backwater area, because we've been so concerned with the main stem, and most of our that work that we had, that firm in San Diego did on drought work was up there. But that's something, because like you said, the growth is really, it's really skyrocketed out there. And I can see it becoming the same kind of issue that in the East County, which is out of, around Sonoyta and stuff, is, they're running into issues there with the growth, and the growth's even more up here in a much more constrained area. So, that information would be, I think that would be really good. That's going to be something that we would have to look at it, because that's an area that's it's not that easily rechargeable or anything else. I mean,
I was involved in a water quality study. You were asking about what water quality in the Santa Cruz River, but I was looking specifically at the tributaries to the Santa Cruz River. That was done, Natalie Brasil did it in conjunction with the Extension Service. That was about 4 years ago. I did all the lab work for that and did a lot of the water collection. And actually, the Santa Cruz River below the treatment plant is safe to wade in. I wouldn't want to drink it. And I was looking at what would happen, just a side project myself on my own, looking at what happened after a significant rainfall where you had sheet flow, what happened to the E. coli level in the tributaries. And the day after a heavy rain, it zoomed way up, mostly from animal feces. And then usually within a day or two, it was back down to safe wading levels. And I'm not throwing at first I was thinking it's the cows. But if the cows weren't there, there'd be other grazing animals that would be contributing just as much. So it's pretty well handles pollution, but there's no water. And it's having an impact on my well. I know, in the years that I've lived there, it's dropped well over 200 feet.
No, and that would be, yeah, interesting stuff that is, not sort of taken up by our, that is really important, I think, but, it's a thing we don't focus on. Like you said, when we got going as an AMA, nobody lived out there.
Yeah.
So, that would be good, yeah.
I think that's why it's important, the monitoring. There's plenty of wells, private wells, that could be monitored.
Yes.
See what's going on with there.
I've informally been doing that for the past 6 years.
But yeah, if you could come and present it and talk about, the number of wells that you've done, how long you've done it, and particularly if you've seen, you've got an overall trend, but if you've seen ups and downs in the trend too, would be real interesting. So if we could get, that on an agenda item, that would be great. And we never set the date at these things. It's always something.
I wouldn't want to be scheduled for the next meeting because you already have 2 big topics for the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Could be the fall one.
Yeah.
That's something, I'll collect your contact information, sir, and that's something we can work out. But for now, we're a little bit over, and I really want to be respectful of the time allotted to us by the Unified School District. So I think we have to move on at this point, unless there are any other comments from the public that are present.
Excuse me.
So yeah, next meeting.
When is that?
And it's going to be next quarter probably, right? And I know we usually don't set a date right now, but you guys do it and then you coordinate with the school.
That's something I guess.
Okay, and this has been, I think, a good place to meet. We're okay here.
Yeah. Hey, if you need, I can set up something at the city that needed. But here is perfect.
Yeah, here's
We
pretty
could
good. Yeah.
Right. We don't charge anything like the city of Nogales. Taxpayers' money here too, so.
Yeah. So, okay.
Simple.
So I'm gonna say that,
Your gavel is ready.
okay. I take my shoe and pound it just like Nikita Khrushchev. So,
We will bury you.
okay, so, I think we're ready to.
I'm just making sure. Was there anyone online who would like to make a comment?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, can anybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I'd like to address the council. My name's Nick Valverde with the Arizona Department of Water Resources, AWR. I am part of the field services unit, and to answer some of the questions you guys were talking about, water level data within the Santa Cruz AMA, the department, myself, actually, we are taking quarterly water level measurements and annual water measurements with domestic, private. We work with Alejandro's group, the city of Nogales, and we get water level data along the Santa Cruz River as well as Keno Springs all the way up to Sahuarita. So that data is actually there and we are collecting it. We probably have about 30 wells that are about quarterly and probably about 40 wells that are annually. I know somebody mentioned the basin sweeps that the department does. And I believe the last one we did was 20, maybe 21, 22, like right after the COVID pandemic. So the next one scheduled might be 25, 26, but I can look back on that. The field services unit as well as modeling also works on the SCAMO model, Santa Cruz AMA model, and we also publish open field reports as well as water level change map series for the Santa Cruz AMA, and all of that information can be found on the department webpage. I apologize for not being there in person, but if anybody wants this more information, which it sounds like we do, you can reach me. Well, I'll probably get a hold. I could give my information to Nick or Melissa. We work all in the same department, and we can work on maybe the next meeting or further down the road, providing the council and the public with more water level information and kind of what field services is doing down there as a whole. Again, thank you guys for letting me speak, and I look forward to working with the council and staying up to date on the GUAC meetings from, I believe Mark was saying, the golden era back in the day.
Okay, yeah, great. And I know we want to discuss kind of how, because I know there's been sort of a rotating thing that like every few years you get here. And I know what we want to talk about is a more, I guess a more immediate in time type of deal, particularly because of the hydrology in our area. Okay, I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn. Somebody wants to
Make it.
Okay, it's been made. All in favor? say
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned. Great. Cheap little plastic thing, isn't it?